The void of space stretched endlessly around the massive hunting vessel Iran, its dark hull bristling with weapons that had never known defeat. Captain stood on the command bridge, her forearms crossed behind her back as she watched the holographic display showing their latest prize. The small blue and green planet rotated slowly, completely unaware of the death that hung in orbit above it. "Such a beautiful world," she mused, her scaled skin gleaming under the bridge lights. "It will make an excellent hunting ground." They had ruled the galaxy for over 3,000 years, not through conquest or politics, but through pure predatory excellence. They were the ultimate hunters, and every other species knew it. Their elongated bodies, razor-sharp claws, and superior technology made them the apex predators of known space. No species had ever successfully resisted a hunting expedition. "Captain," her weapons officer, spoke up from his station. "The planetary scans are complete. The dominant species appears to be bipedal carbon-based. Approximately 7 billion individuals scattered across multiple continents. They show signs of primitive technology, barely achieving orbital flight." Mandibles clicked with amusement. Primitive, how primitive? They still use chemical propulsion for space travel. Their weapons appear to be kinetic-based projectiles and simple explosives. No energy weapons, no plasma technology, no quantum manipulators. They haven't even achieved faster-than-light travel. The bridge crew erupted in laughter. Such backward creatures would provide little challenge, but perhaps that was for the best. The last hunt on Prime had been disappointingly brief. The reptilian warriors there had at least put up a fight for several days before being completely overwhelmed. "What do they call themselves?" asked. Her science officer, Doctor, consulted her data pad. "According to their communication signals, they call themselves humans and their world, Earth. They seem to be divided into numerous smaller tribal groups across their planet." "Humans," repeated, tasting the word. "How wonderfully exotic, and their physiology." "Standard bipedal form, 2 arms, 2 legs. Average height appears to be roughly 1.7 meters. They have only 1 heart, which seems remarkably inefficient. Their bone density is actually quite low compared to most species we've encountered. No natural weapons, no claws, no fangs worth mentioning, no armored skin. They appear to be primarily prey animals that somehow achieved sentience." The bridge crew exchanged glances of disbelief. Prey animals that had reached the stars. This would be less of a hunt and more of a harvest. Turned to her tactical officer. "Begin standard hunting protocols. Deploy the observation pods to all major population centers. I want a complete behavioral analysis before we begin the actual hunt. How long until the fleet arrives?" "The other 7 hunting vessels will be here within 2 rotations, Captain. Shall we begin preliminary reconnaissance?" "Yes, but maintain stealth protocols. I want to observe these humans in their natural state before we reveal ourselves. Sometimes the most interesting prey behavior occurs when they don't know they're being watched." Deep in the bowels of the ship, this advanced cloaking technology hummed quietly, rendering the massive vessel completely invisible to the primitive detection systems below. They had perfected this technology over of hunting, and no species had ever detected their approach. 3 days later, Doctor approached the captain with her preliminary report. "Captain, I must admit these humans are fascinating in their own way." "Oh, in what manners?" "They appear to have an unusual relationship with predation. Unlike most prey species, they don't seem to have a natural fear response to danger. In fact, they actively seek it out." Size narrowed. "Explain." "Well, they engage in something they call extreme sports, deliberately putting themselves in dangerous situations for what appears to be entertainment. They throw themselves from great heights with nothing but fabric to slow their fall. They race mechanical vehicles at incredible speeds. They even fight each other in organized combat for sport." "Curious, perhaps they're more like us than initially apparent." "That's not all, Captain. Their entertainment media is filled with stories about hunting and being hunted. They seem to have an obsession with predator-prey dynamics. Many of their most popular stories involve humans fighting against superior opponents and somehow prevailing." Clicked her mandibles thoughtfully. "Wishful thinking, no doubt. What else have you discovered?" "Their weapons technology, while primitive by our standards, is surprisingly diverse. They've developed thousands of different ways to kill each other. Some of their tactics are creative." The captain's interest was piqued. "Show me." Doctor activated the holographic display, showing various scenes from Earth's military conflicts. They use everything from simple bladed weapons to complex explosive devices. But what's most interesting is their apparent capacity for strategic thinking. They don't just fight with brute force. They use deception, misdirection, psychological warfare. All prey animals develop some form of defensive tactics, dismissed. It's survival instinct. Perhaps, but Captain, I've noticed something else. They don't just fight when cornered, they seem to actively hunt their own species. This gave pause. They hunt their own kind. Extensively, their history is filled with conflicts where they systematically hunted down and eliminated entire populations of their own species. They call it war and genocide. They've been doing it for their entire recorded history. The bridge fell silent. In all their centuries of hunting, they had never encountered a prey species that actively hunted itself. Most species only fought when defending territory or resources. The idea of hunting one's own kind for ideological reasons was disturbing. Perhaps, Doctor continued, these humans are not quite the simple prey animals we initially assumed. Before could respond, her communications officer interrupted. Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the human planet. It's directed at us. The bridge went completely silent. That was impossible. Their cloaking technology was perfect. No species had ever detected them while cloaked. That cannot be correct, said slowly. Run a complete diagnostic on the cloaking system. System shows fully operational, Captain. All stealth parameters are within normal ranges. Then how could they possibly know we're here? Her communications officer's voice was uncertain. I don't know, Captain, but the transmission is definitely aimed at our location. It's coming from their largest landmass, from what appears to be a government facility. Claws extended involuntarily. Put it through. The main screen flickered to life, showing a human male in what appeared to be a military uniform. He was sitting behind a simple desk, his hands folded calmly in front of him. His expression was completely neutral, almost bored. Greetings, the human said in perfectly clear galactic standard. My name is General Harrison. I represent the United Earth Defense Council. I believe we need to talk. The bridge crew stared in stunned silence. Not only had this primitive species detected them, but they spoke galactic standard. That was impossible. According to their intelligence, humans had never made contact with any other species. General Harrison continued speaking as if he were discussing the weather. We know you're up there. We know what you are, and we know why you're here. We've been expecting you. Found her voice. How do you know our language? The human's expression didn't change. Oh, we've been listening to galactic communications for quite some time now. We're very good at listening. It's amazing what you can learn when you stay quiet and pay attention. That's impossible. Your technology level suggests you've barely achieved basic space flight. General Harrison smiled, and something about that expression sent an unfamiliar chill down spine. General, you shouldn't believe everything you see. Humans have a saying, speak softly and carry a big stick. We've been carrying a very big stick for quite some time now. Doctor quickly ran new scans of the planet below. Her eyes widened as the results came in. Captain, the energy readings, they're not showing everything. There are massive underground installations across the planet. The energy signatures they're comparable to our own technology. His blood ran cold. That's not possible. General Harrison leaned forward slightly. Captain of the hunting vessel Iran, you and your 7 sister ships are currently in violation of Earth territorial space. You have exactly 1 hour to withdraw beyond our system's outer boundary, or we will be forced to take defensive action. You know our names, whispered. We know a great deal we know about your hunting expeditions. We know about the 63 species you've driven to extinction. We know about your entire empire. The human's voice remained calm, almost conversational. What you don't know is that we've been preparing for you for a very long time. The tactical officer suddenly spoke up, his voice panicked. Captain, I'm detecting massive energy spikes across the planet's surface. Something is powering up down there. On the screen, General Harrison checked what appeared to be a primitive timepiece. 58 minutes remaining, Captain. I would suggest you use that time wisely. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. His mind raced. This was unlike anything they had encountered before. Prey species were supposed to run, hide, or fight desperately when cornered. They weren't supposed to issue ultimatums to their hunters. "Contact the fleet," she ordered. "All ships are to maintain position and prepare for combat. If these humans want to fight, we'll give them one they'll never forget." But even as she gave the order, doubt gnawed at her. In 3,000 years of hunting, they had never been detected while cloaked. They had never encountered a species that spoke galactic standard without first contact, and they had certainly never been issued an ultimatum by their prey. As the massive hunting fleet moved into attack formation, none of them noticed the small, seemingly primitive satellites that had been quietly adjusting their positions throughout the system. Nor did they detect the quantum communication arrays hidden throughout the asteroid belt, arrays that had been sending detailed tactical information to Earth for the past week. Below them, on the small blue and green planet, 7 billion humans went about their daily lives. But in hardened command bunkers deep beneath the Earth's surface, military leaders from every nation watched tactical displays showing the positions of 8 massive alien warships. General Harrison stood before a holographic representation of the solar system, studying the enemy formation. Around him, officers from dozens of countries worked at stations displaying technology that would have seemed like magic to any observer from just 50 years ago. "Sir," his aide approached quietly, "all planetary defense systems are online and ready. The orbital platforms are in position. The deep space mines have been activated. And our ace in the hole." "Standing by, sir. The Vindication reports ready for operation." Harrison nodded grimly. They had made one critical error in their intelligence gathering. They had assumed that humanity's apparent technological level was actually their maximum capability. They had failed to consider that a species paranoid enough to fight itself for thousands of years might also be paranoid enough to prepare for threats from beyond their own world. Humanity had been listening to galactic communications for over a century. They had learned about the decades ago, and they had been preparing ever since. The primitive technology the aliens had observed was merely what humanity chose to display publicly. The real technology, the weapons and defenses built in the deepest, most secret facilities on Earth, were about to give the galaxy's most feared predators the surprise of their very long lives. Above Earth, Captain received confirmation that her fleet was in position. 8 of the most powerful warships ever built hung in space, their weapons charged and ready to begin the hunt. What they didn't know was that they were no longer the hunters. They had become the hunted. Captain watched the countdown timer reach 0 with growing unease. The humans had given them 1 hour to withdraw, and that hour had passed. Yet nothing had happened. The 8 vessels remained in perfect formation above Earth, their weapons primed and ready. "Perhaps their threat was merely bluffing," suggested her tactical officer. "Many prey species attempt to intimidate their hunters when cornered." Wasn't so sure. Something felt wrong about this entire situation. In 3 of hunting, no prey species had ever detected them while cloaked, let alone issued ultimatums. And that human, General Harrison, had been far too calm for someone facing extinction. "Captain," her communications officer called out, "we're receiving another transmission from the planet." "Put it through." The screen flickered to life, once again showing General Harrison in his simple military office. He looked exactly as calm as before, perhaps even slightly amused. "Captain," Harrison began, "I gave you 1 hour to withdraw. That time has expired. Since you've chosen to remain in our space, we'll now demonstrate why that was a poor decision." "Your threats mean nothing, human," snarled. We have hunted 1,000 worlds. Your primitive species cannot possibly threaten us." Harrison's expression didn't change. "Captain, would you please look at your long-range sensors?" Confused but curious, turned to her sensor operator. "What do you see?" The operator's face went pale. "Captain, the outer system. There's something wrong with our readings." "Elaborate." "The asteroid belt. It's moving. The asteroids are changing position, but not in any natural orbital pattern. They're forming a grid." On the main screen, Harrison nodded. "Those aren't asteroids, Captain. Well, they were asteroids once. We've been mining and hollowing them out for the past 40 years, turning them into weapons platforms. You're currently surrounded by approximately 2,000 fully automated defense stations, each one equipped with weapons that your empire has never seen before." Felt her second heart skip a beat. "That's impossible. Our intelligence reports show you've barely achieved interplanetary travel." Your intelligence reports show what we wanted them to show, Harrison replied calmly. Humans learned a long time ago that the best way to survive is to be underestimated. We've been listening to galactic communications since the 1920s. We learned about your empire, your hunting practices, and your technology decades before you ever found Earth. The tactical display around the fleet suddenly lit up with thousands of new contacts. What had appeared to be empty space was now revealed to be filled with hidden weapons platforms, each one now powering up and targeting the 8 hunting vessels. Hal whispered, "Stealth technology," Harrison explained. "Though not the same kind you use, you rely on energy dampening and light deflection. We use quantum phase shifting and dimensional displacement. Your sensors literally cannot detect something that exists slightly out of phase with normal spacetime." Doctor frantically worked at her station, trying to understand the readings. "Captain, the quantum signatures are unlike anything in our databases. This technology is... it's centuries beyond what they should possess." Harrison continued speaking as if he could hear their conversation. "You see, Captain, when humans discovered we weren't alone in the universe, we didn't celebrate. We panicked. We're a paranoid species by nature. We've been fighting each other for thousands of years. When we learned there were other species out there, species with superior technology and weapons, we did what humans do best. We adapted." The sensor readings continued to change. More and more hidden installations revealed themselves throughout the solar system. The supposedly primitive space stations orbiting Earth were shedding their disguises, revealing advanced weapon arrays and defense shields. "We took everything we learned from galactic communications and improved upon it," Harrison explained. "Humans have a talent for taking existing technology and making it better. We don't just copy, we innovate. Your plasma weapons gave us the foundation for particle beam systems. Your energy shields inspired our quantum barriers. Your faster-than-light drives helped us develop instantaneous travel." His claws were fully extended now, scraping against the metal of her command chair. "You're claiming your species developed superior technology in mere decades." "Not superior," Harrison corrected. "Different. See, they developed their technology for hunting. Every innovation was designed to make you better predators, but humans didn't develop our technology for hunting. We developed it for war." The words hung in the space between them like a death sentence. "War, Captain, is very different from hunting. When you hunt, you have all the advantages. You choose when to strike, how to strike, where to strike. Your prey is usually inferior, frightened, and unprepared. But in war, your enemy is trying to kill you just as hard as you're trying to kill them. War forces innovation at a pace hunting never could." Suddenly shouted from his station, "Captain, I'm detecting massive energy buildup from the planet's surface. Multiple launch sites are powering up." On Earth, hidden facilities that had masqueraded as research centers and industrial complexes for decades were finally revealing their true purpose. Massive doors slid open across continents, revealing launch bays that extended deep underground. The energy readings were unlike anything they had ever encountered. "Those facilities," Harrison said, watching their expressions on his screen, "have been under construction for 70 years. Every major nation on Earth contributed resources and personnel. We called it the Sword of Damocles Project." From launch bays hidden beneath the Sahara Desert, the Siberian tundra, the Amazon rainforest, and a dozen other locations, massive objects began rising into the sky. They weren't ships in any conventional sense. They were pure weapons, each one the size of a small moon and bristling with technology that made weapons look primitive. "Quantum tunneling warheads," Harrison explained helpfully. "They don't just destroy their targets, they erase them from existence on a subatomic level. We developed the technology after studying the quantum signatures of your hunting fleet weapons. We wanted to make sure that when we fired back, there wouldn't be anything left to fire at us again." Was finding it difficult to breathe. Her species had terrorized the galaxy for 3,000 years, and now they were being lectured on warfare by a species they had dismissed as primitive prey animals. "You're bluffing," she said, but even she didn't believe it anymore. "Am I?" Harrison asked. "Let me show you something." The view on the main screen changed to show space above Earth's moon. A small probe, one they had deployed for reconnaissance, hung motionless in the void. As they watched, one of the quantum weapons fired a single, thin beam of energy. The probe didn't explode. It didn't disintegrate. It simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there, the next moment there was only empty space, as if the probe had never existed at all. That was a very low-power demonstration, Harrison said as the view returned to his office. Our main weapons are considerably more impressive. The bridge of the Oran had fallen completely silent. For the first time in their species' history, they were face to face with technology that was genuinely superior to their own. Now, Harrison continued, I'm going to give you a choice, Captain. You can withdraw your fleet from our system immediately, return to your empire, and tell them that Earth is off limits. Or you can stay and discover firsthand why humans are the galaxy's premier experts at killing things. His mind raced. Every instinct screamed at her to flee, but 3,000 years of genetic predator programming fought against the rational part of her brain. That had never retreated from prey before. And if we choose to fight, she asked. Harrison's expression became almost sad. Then you'll join the 63 species you've driven to extinction. The difference is that we won't be gentle about it. For a long moment, the only sound on the bridge was the humming of electronic systems. Then Doctor spoke up, her voice barely above a whisper. Captain, I'm detecting movement in the outer system. Something large is approaching from beyond the heliosphere. All eyes turned to the long-range sensors. A massive contact was moving toward them at incredible speed, faster than anything in the fleet could travel. What is that? Demanded. Harrison smiled, and this time there was no warmth in the expression at all. That, Captain, is the UES Vindication, Earth's first true warship. We built her in the asteroid belt over the past 20 years, using materials and technology we've been developing specifically for this moment. The sensor readings were staggering. Whatever was approaching was larger than their entire fleet combined, and its energy signature was beyond anything they had on record. The Vindication, Harrison continued, was designed with a single purpose, to end the threat permanently. She's equipped with weapons that can crack planets and defenses that can withstand anything in your arsenal. Her crew of 12,000 includes representatives from every nation on Earth, all of them volunteers who spent years training for this exact scenario. The massive ship was now visible on their screens, a kilometer-long beast of angular metal and exposed weapon systems. It moved with the grace of a predator, but there was nothing subtle about its intentions. This was a ship built for war, designed by a species that had spent thousands of years perfecting the art of killing. You see, Captain, Harrison said, humans have been preparing for you longer than your current empire has existed. We've had time to study your tactics, your technology, your psychology. We know everything about you, but you know nothing about us. The Vindication took position directly between the fleet and Earth, its weapons systems powering up with an ominous hum that somehow transmitted through space itself. So I'll ask you one more time, Harrison said, his voice now carrying the weight of 7 billion lives behind it. Will you leave our system peacefully, or shall we demonstrate why humans are the galaxy's apex predators? Looked around her bridge at her crew. These were the finest warriors in the Empire, veterans of countless hunts, beings who had never known defeat. Now they stared at their sensor displays with expressions of fear she had never seen before. For 3,000 years, they had been the galaxy's ultimate predators. They had hunted and killed without challenge, secure in their technological and physical superiority. But now, for the first time in their species' history, they were the ones being hunted. And their hunters were very, very good at what they did. The silence on the bridge of the Oran stretched for what felt like an eternity. Captain stared at the tactical display showing the massive human warship Vindication and the thousands of hidden weapon platforms now revealed throughout the solar system. Every instinct that had made her species, the galaxy's apex predators, was screaming at her to flee. But warriors did not flee. Captain said quietly, "We should contact the Empire, request reinforcements." His 4 hands clenched into fists. The idea of calling for help, of admitting that prey animals had forced them into a retreat, was almost unbearable. But the tactical situation was undeniable. The humans had somehow achieved technological superiority while maintaining the appearance of a primitive civilization. "You're considering retreat," General Harrison observed from the main screen as if he could read her thoughts. "That's wise, but before you make your final decision, there's something else you should know." The human's calm demeanor was perhaps the most unsettling aspect of this entire encounter. Even facing 8 of the galaxy's most feared warships, he spoke as if discussing routine business. "We know about Prime," Harrison continued. We know about the massacre on Theta. We know about the hunting preserves on 17 different worlds where you keep sentient species as livestock. Doctor gasped. That information was classified at the highest levels of the Empire. How could these primitive humans possibly know about it? We've been watching you for a long time, Captain. Not just your technology, but your methods. Your empire believes that strength gives you the right to hunt and kill other species. You've turned genocide into entertainment. Harrison stood from his desk and moved to a wall display showing images that made even the hardened bridge crew recoil. They were scenes from hunting expeditions, cities in flames, fleeing civilians, trophy rooms filled with the mounted heads of sentient beings. "This ends today," Harrison said simply. Found her voice. "You cannot threaten the entire empire. We are spread across 300 systems. Even if you could somehow defeat our fleet here, you could never challenge our full might." Harrison smiled, and it was a predator's smile. "Captain, you're still thinking like hunters. You assume that because humans are newer to galactic civilization, we must be isolated, that we must be alone." The display changed to show a star map of local space. As they watched, hundreds of systems lit up in blue. "The Terran Alliance," Harrison announced. 47 species across 230 systems, every single one of them a species that survived hunting expeditions. Every single one of them grateful to the humans who gave them the technology and weapons to fight back. His blood turned to ice. "That's impossible. We eliminated all resistance from those species." "You eliminated their home worlds," Harrison corrected. "But survivors escaped. Refugees found their way to hidden colonies, forgotten outposts, secret research stations, and humans found them." The tactical display expanded to show fleet positions throughout the sector. Hundreds of ships, representing dozens of species, were moving toward territory. The flags and symbols were those of civilizations the Empire had assumed were extinct. "You see," Harrison continued, "humans have a saying, 'The enemy of my enemy is my friend.' When we learned about your empire, we didn't just prepare Earth's defenses. We went looking for everyone you'd wronged, everyone you'd hurt, everyone who had reason to want revenge." Doctor was frantically scanning through communication frequencies. "Captain, I'm detecting massive fleet movements across the sector. Ships using technology signatures I don't recognize. They're moving toward our territory." "Salvaged technology," Harrison explained helpfully. "Reverse-engineered and improved by species you thought you'd destroyed. Enhanced with human innovations and manufactured in hidden shipyards throughout the Outer Rim." The scope of what the humans had accomplished was staggering. In less than a century, they had not only prepared their own defenses, but had organized a galactic resistance movement. The Harrison continued, highlighting one group of ships on the display, "have been building their new fleet for 60 years. They're very eager to discuss reparations for their destroyed. The Theta survivors have developed some fascinating new weapon technologies, and they have become quite skilled at psychological warfare." Recognized the names, all species that had hunted to supposed extinction. Yet here they were, not only alive but armed and organized. "How many ships?" she asked, dreading the answer. "Currently, about 12,000, but production is ramping up across 200 worlds. Within a year, we estimate the Alliance will field over 50,000 vessels." The bridge crew exchanged horrified glances. The entire Imperial fleet numbered less than 8,000 ships. "You're declaring war on the Empire," said. "No," Harrison replied calmly. "We're ending one. They have been at war with the galaxy for 3,000 years. You've just been fighting enemies too weak to fight back effectively. Now that's changed." Suddenly, the ship's proximity alarms began blaring. On the tactical display, 3 more massive contacts had appeared from seemingly empty space, more human warships, each one comparable in size to the Vindication. "The Retribution, Vengeance, and Justice," Harrison announced. "Earth's deep space patrol fleet. They've been stationed throughout the sector for the past 5 years, waiting for your hunters to make their move." Captain's voice was strained. "Captain, our escape routes are being cut off. More ships are appearing on all vectors." The humans had anticipated everything. Not only had they prepared a trap, but they had positioned forces to prevent any chance of escape or reinforcement. "There is another option," Harrison said, as if reading her mind again. "Surrender." The word hit the bridge like a physical blow. In the entire history of the Empire, no hunting fleet had ever surrendered to their prey. "You're demanding our capitulation?" asked. "I'm offering you a chance to live," Harrison corrected. "Your crews will be treated according to galactic conventions on prisoners of war. Your ships will be studied and then destroyed. You personally will be tried by a tribunal representing all the species your empire has wronged." The offer was more generous than anything they had ever extended to their own victims, but for a proud warrior species, it was worse than death. "And if we refuse?" Harrison's expression became stone cold. "Then we'll demonstrate what 3,000 years of human warfare innovation can accomplish when applied to starship combat. I promise you, it will be educational." As if to emphasize the point, the Vindication powered up its main weapon systems. The energy readings were off the scale, far beyond anything the fleet could match. "Captain," Doctor whispered, "I'm detecting quantum instabilities in their weapon matrix. If they fire that at full power, the resulting cascade could destabilize space-time in a 12-light-minute radius." Stared at the human on her screen. "You would risk destroying your own planet." "The Vindication is positioned specifically to direct any cascade away from Earth," Harrison replied. "We've run the calculations thousands of times. We're very thorough when it comes to planning how to kill our enemies." The tactical situation was hopeless. They were outnumbered and completely surrounded. But more than that, they had been outthought by a species they had dismissed as primitive prey. "Captain," said quietly, "the crew is looking to you for orders." Looked around her bridge. These warriors had followed her across the galaxy, trusting in superiority and her leadership. Now she had to make a choice that would define not just their fate, but possibly the future of their entire empire. "General Harrison," she said finally, "if we surrender, what guarantee do we have that will be treated according to your stated terms?" "You have my word," Harrison replied simply. "The word of a prey animal." Harrison's expression didn't change, but something shifted in his eyes. "Captain, let me clarify something. Humans have never been prey animals. We're omnivores, we both hunt and are hunted. But more importantly, we're social hunters. We work in groups, we plan, we coordinate, and we never stop until our target is dead." He leaned forward slightly. "They made the mistake of thinking that because humans don't have claws or fangs, we must be weak. But humans don't need natural weapons. We make our own, and we make them very, very well." The communication system crackled as another voice joined the conversation. It was heavily accented, speaking in what sounded like multiple languages simultaneously. "Vessels," the new voice said, "this is Admiral Iran of the Free Defense Force. In the name of my fallen and the millions you murdered, I offer you the same mercy you showed our children." More voices joined in, each representing a different species, all of them supposedly extinct civilizations now very much alive and very much armed. "This is Commander of the Theta Resistance. Your hunting games end here. Fleet command to hunters. Today the hunted become the hunters. Survivor ships standing by. We remember our dead." The communication channels filled with the voices of dozens of species, all unified in their hatred of the Empire, all armed and ready for battle. But through it all, General Harrison remained calm and professional. "As you can hear, Captain, there are many here who would prefer a more direct form of justice. I'm offering you the civilized alternative." Realized she was witnessing something unprecedented in galactic history. The humans hadn't just defeated them tactically. They had organized the galaxy's first successful resistance to dominance. They had turned the hunters into the hunted. "We surrender," she said quietly. The words felt like poison in her mouth, but the alternative was the annihilation of her entire crew. "All ships in the fleet are ordered to power down weapons and prepare to be boarded," she announced on the fleet communication channel. "We surrender to the human forces." The response was immediate. Several of her captains protested, demanding to die fighting rather than submit to prey animals. But authority held, and one by one, the 8 mighty hunting vessels powered down their weapons. On the screen, General Harrison nodded respectfully. "A wise decision, Captain. Boarding parties are en route. Please instruct your crews to remain calm and follow all instructions from our personnel." As human and allied ships moved in to take control of the surrendered fleet, reflected on the magnitude of what had just occurred. In a single day, the foundation of superiority had been shattered. For 3,000 years, they had been the galaxy's apex predators. Now they were the prey. and their hunters had been planning this moment for decades.